Chapter 18. These things eat at your bones. September 1979. There's a stack of unopened letters on the table next to Regulus's bed. They've been piling up for weeks. His name is written on the back of everyone in Barty's handwriting. Evan's. Pandora's. He knows it's not right to him to leave them not only unopened but unanswered. His friends miss him, and he misses his friends. He meant what he said when he told them to stay away until they had answers, but he never thought it would take this long. He never thought the tail end of September would come and he would be in a worse shape than when this all started. It's a Thursday evening. His dinner sits mostly untouched. He poked at it a little, but he really has no appetite. After 2 months of eating the same exact thing every single week, he's lost interest. And because tonight is the night before a game, James and Sirius won't come with delicious homemade snacks or candies. He's on his own with nothing but flavorless pot roast, a pile of books he's already read through several times, and an unopened stack of letters from his friends. 2 of the 3 bore him to death, so he reaches for the stack of letters. The latest one is from Barty. He opens it delicately. It's dated a week ago. He remembers Sirius bringing it sometime when he was asleep. His brother has stopped asking if he will open them. Sirius simply sets each new one with the rest and pretends they are not there. Regulus takes a deep breath, bracing himself, and opens Barty's letter. To whom it may concern. As I am unsure whether these letters are reaching Mr. Black's secretary or his actual person, I believe it's better for me to address a faceless entity than keep trying to address my friend. He tries not to laugh, but it bubbles out of him anyway. He can practically hear Barty's voice dripping with sarcasm and mild ire as he writes, all of his letters loopy but neat. As if he really did intend for this letter to reach a professional secretary rather than Regulus himself. Should Mr. Black deign to read the troubles of a lowly man such as myself, here is what he should know about how life has been lately. First, I secured a pretty decent job with the ministry. Nothing spectacular, but good all that pulled the right strings. It's enough for me and Evan to move in together. We got flat in a nice little part of London last month, but just moved in this week. We're sleeping on the floor for now, but that's fine. Floors are perfect for horizontal activity. Regulus does laugh at this, though it hurts his ribs something fierce. He hisses in pain, clutching at his chest. Merlin forbid his body let him forget for even a second that he's breaking down. He can't even laugh without suffering. He sets Barty's letter aside. He will finish it later when his ribs ache a little less and the stabbing pain has dulled. Damn Barty for being someone who can make him laugh even through a stupid letter. The next one is from Pandora. Hers is from early September, before Barty's latest. He reads it with a small smile. It seems she and Lily are happy. They are starting their lives post-Hogwarts now that Pandora is finished too. There is mention of furniture shopping and domesticity. It makes his chest ache, but this time it isn't the vines and flowers bringing him pain. He sets Pandora's letter next to Barty's. The ringing in his ears gets louder with each shaky breath he takes. His hands tremble. His vision comes in and out of focus, blurring the room until he can't tell the parchment in his lap apart from white of his bedsheets or paleness of his thin, shaky hands. His tears are hot on his cheeks. They fall, become little wet circles dotting his lap, some of the unopened envelopes. This is misery. This is why he didn't want to open his friend's letter in the first place. It means hearing about their lives, not the end of them like his, but the start. Moving in together, new London flats. shopping for furniture and groceries, ministry jobs, domesticity. They are 18 with a life ahead of them. He's 18 with a garden in his ribs and bloodied flowers for company. Regulus wipes his eyes with the back of his hand. He quickly folds Barty's and Pandora's letters, collects them all in pile, and set them back on the bedside table. His pot roast is cold now. The vegetables look unappealing. He hates the strawberry-flavored dessert more than any of it. Alone and tired of fighting, Regulus turns away from the pile of letters, pulls the thin sheets over his head, and lets himself cry. The Argentinian doctor is the most attractive man Regulus has ever seen in his life. Pablo is a very welcome distraction, and it's not due to his look. Regulus likes him. Pablo treats him like a peasant, not a patient. He asks for his opinion and talks to him about things that have nothing to do with illnesses or curses while they are conducting tests. In the few days Pablo has been around, Regulus has even learned a bit of Spanish. It's made the endless circle of poking and prodding much more bearable than ever before. As an expert on blood curses, Pablo is most interested in studying the makeup of Regulus's body. A lot of previous tests, especially Sari's, were focused on the flowers and the vines inside of him. Regulus has had no less than 8 biopsies. But Pablo thinks that the flowers are symptom, and he's looking for the cause. "All right, Reg," he says with a bright smile. "This is going to sting. I'm sorry." The needle plunges into his arm and Regulus winces. It's thick and long, attached to the vial that looks entirely too big. Regulus doesn't think he's strong enough to have that much blood extracted from his veins, but the replenishing potions are on a bedside table already. And he trusts Pablo. Humming under his breath, the healer monitors the blood flow into the vial. Regulus watches him. He's tall, broad-shouldered and tanned. His black hair is cut short, but not so much that Regulus can see the waves in it. "My cousin is coming later this morning," Regulus blurts for no reason. "The one I told you was looking into our ancestry." "Excellent," Pablo says. "I'm ready to study whatever records she'll bring." "That might not be possible. I think they are in Japanese." "Oh?" Pablo's green eyes slide from the blood vial to Regulus, curiosity sparkling in them. "Merlin, he's handsome. Your hospital records don't show you have Japanese heritage." Regulus frowns. His head is a bit foggy now. Thoughts come in slow waves and forming words take effort. "Well, I was born here, and so were my parents, and their parents. I think you have to go back at least 4 generations. Andy will be able to explain better." "I think you should get in touch with Miss Nakamura," Pablo tells him. The blood vial is full, so he stoppers it, then pulls the needle out of Regulus' arm. "Drink this. You'll feel better." Blood replenished potions taste absolutely foul, but Regulus does as told. Sitting up makes him grunt. Dark spots crowd his vision. Regulus's hand shakes, spilling a little of the potion on the sheet. "Here." Pablo's hand is warm on Regulus's too thin back. He can't see very well, but the healer takes the potion and feeds it to him gently. When it's empty, he hears the clicking of glass, then another potion is at his lips. "Thank you," Regulus croaks, blinking to dispel the dizziness. Pablo stands by his bed, studying him with concern. It makes Regulus feel a little too warm, which is ridiculous. Pablo is married to a lovely human named Marissa, who brings him dinner when he stays late at the hospital. Not to mention he's at least 20 years older than Regulus. Although, now that he thinks about it, Marissa looks relatively young. They can't be more than a few years past 25. "Are you with me?" Pablo asks, oblivious to Regulus' ridiculous thoughts. "Yes," he rubs his eyes, shakes his head. I don't know if I can keep that up though. I am not an expert, but that looks like a lot of blood. I almost passed out on you. It is, Pablo confirms, sitting on the edge of the bed. But the spell I'm going to run on it needs a large quantity. I'm sorry. You won't need to take so much at once again, promise. Regulus nods, relieved. He sits back onto his pillows. You mentioned someone, Miss Nakamura. Who is she? Leading expert in blood curses, Pablo says. She's a genius, and she's Japanese. Due to their history and tradition, Japanese people are big on curses. They have some of the most complex cases ever recorded. Nakamura is an eminence, and considering your ancestry, you think it's a blood curse for sure, don't you? I won't make the diagnosis official until I've had it confirmed. But yes, everything I've seen points to that. I'm sorry, Regulus. Fear grips him, squeezing his lungs alongside with vines and roots cracking through them with every day that passes. Regulus looks away, ashamed of his own reaction. Tears spring to his eyes and bile rises in the back of his throat. He knew. They all did. All else has failed, so it made sense that it would be this. But this means hopes has run out. This means Regulus isn't going to see another summer. He'll never fly again, never swim in the ocean again, or celebrate another birthday. I just. Regulus thoughts. He has to stop, voice too thick. Words stick to the back of his teeth, heavy on his tongue. Pablo watches him. He doesn't offer empty promises, doesn't tell him he needs to cheer up, that his mindset is important. Pablo simply witnesses his despair with the solemnity that, bizarrely, makes him feel better. Have you ever cured one? Regulus asks after a moment. Don't lie to me. Don't sugarcoat it. I would rather know. Is it even possible to cure or mitigate it? Pablo puts a heavy hand off his knee. Warm, tanned. Regulus wishes he could feel it. Yes, I've cured 4 curses in my career. 2 of them we managed to break completely. The other 2 require the cursed people to come in once a month for treatment, but they have a normal life outside of some regular medication and measures. It's not good odds, Regulus. I've had more than 20 years in the field. 4 is too few. But it's more than 0, and that means not all is lost. Not yet. Regulus nods, inhales deeply. He doesn't say anything. There really isn't much else to say anyway. Andromeda arrives at 11 a.m. When Pablo left to do whatever it was he wanted to do with Regulus's blood, a nurse came to help Regulus hobble over to the shower. It's humiliating that he needs help to wash himself, but the alternative is to reek and he would sooner chew on broken glass. His cousin doesn't come alone. Ted, Dora, and Sirius come with her. They all greet him, doing a piss-poor job at fake cheerfulness. Regulus bites the tip of his tongue hard enough to taste metal, and it helps the tears lining his eyes dissolve. It's a trick Narcissa showed him. The memory hits Regulus with the force of a bullet. They were young. He was 7 or 8. She was maybe 12. Walburga had ripped into her niece at family dinner, calling her names for having failed to impress the Knots. They'd announced that morning their heir's marriage to a Yaxley instead, and Walburga and Druella had been livid. Narcissa took it all with her chin held high and her back ramrod straight. Later, when the adults were in the smoking room and the children were all but forgotten in the library, Regulus had sat next to her and asked how'd she done it. She told him that if you bite the tip of your tongue hard enough to draw blood, you can keep tears at bay. A high-pitched gargle brings him back to the present, to the hospital room and the people visiting him. Dora is in her mother's arm, hands extended towards Regulus like she wants something. It takes him a moment to process that the gurge was Dora's attempt at speech. At 10-month-old, proper words are too hard for her, but she's clearly not deterred. She wants to climb on your lap, Andromeda says. Is that okay? Um, Regulus hesitates, then he shrugs. Dora isn't too heavy, but she's strong. The moment she's on Regulus's lap, she puts her small chubby hands on his shoulders and stands on fat legs. One of her feet lands dangerously close to Regulus's crotch, so he scoots back a little. Unfortunately, it destabilizes Dora's precarious balance and she falls on her butt. Dora's laugh catches him entirely by surprise. It's wonderful, pure, infectious. Before he knows it, Regulus smiles at the baby giggling in his lap. We should bring Dora to see you more often, Sirius says, grinning along with them. Right, well then. Andy refused to tell me what she found until we were here, so go on. Wait, Pablo should be here for this, Regulus says. Sirius, go find him, please. He's tall, dark, and handsome. Can't miss him. Sirius lets out a loud chuckle, wiggling his eyebrows as he turns around. And then his expression falls. Regulus follows his line of sight to the door, where James is standing very still. Who's Pablo? Oh, you know, Sirius says with a strained laugh. Just Regulus's new crush. Sirius! Regulus shows his brother's arm, irritation spiking. James blinks, his expression blank. Is he another patient? No, Regulus tells him in a rush. He's the Argentinian healer, an expert in blood curses. Oh, I see. But James's expression doesn't shift. It remains neutral, even as he crosses the room to sit in one of the chairs. Present, but not quite. He isn't family enough to stand around Regulus's bed while Andromeda delivers the news of her discoveries. Go, Sirius. Go find Pablo, please. Andromeda's smile is warm, but it doesn't reach her eyes. While they wait, Regulus plays with Dora on his lap. He doesn't know how, if he's honest. Babies aren't exactly his forte. It's not as though he's around them often. But when Dora smiles up at him, all dimpled cheeks and tiny teeth, he realizes the only true smile in this room belongs to a person who hasn't seen a full turn around the sun. Her birthday is months away, and at that time she still won't understand what's happening to Regulus. No, what will happen to him once the roots and vines along his ribs squeeze tighten enough to crack him open. Regulus bites down on his tongue, and at the same time he gently brushes a knuckle across the softest cheeks he's ever felt. He understands now why the term baby soft exists. I'm sorry I won't say it, he wants to tell Dora. The day you turn 1 and 5 and 10 and 20. Andromeda says something to Ted that Regulus doesn't catch. When he looks up to try and follow the rest of their conversation, his gaze doesn't fall quite right and lands on James instead. His eyes are more guarded than Regulus has ever seen them. In fact, he's not sure he's ever seen James look so closed off to the rest of the world. His stare is on Regulus's hand, the crook of his fingers where it brushes against Dora's cheek. Regulus can see the feathering at the hinge of his jaw, the slight furrow of his brows, a strange shape to his lips. James, he says quietly, and it seems to startle the other boy from wherever he disappeared to. Are you? Hello, hello! James's expression flickers the briefest second before he looks quickly away from Regulus to set his eyes on Pablo, who's just walked into the room behind Sirius. Regulus doesn't see his expression change again. Hi, Pablo, Regulus says, pushing up in his bed. Remember I told you about my cousin? Ah, yes. Pablo holds out his hand and accompanies it with a gentle smile. My name is Pablo Rojas. It's nice to finally meet you. Regulus has told me quite a bit about what you are doing to help us find an answer. Andromeda's handshake is firm. Andromeda tongues, but you can call me Andy. All of them do. This is my husband, Ted, and my daughter, Dora. She waits until the introduction have been made before continuing. I brought a few things with me that I thought might be of interest, though I'm not sure if they'll be a whole lot of help, considering they are not quite readable. Not yet. The entire room waits with bated breath while Andromeda pulls from her bag a decent-sized envelope. Narcissa was able to provide me with far more than I anticipated. She spreads out several documents, littering the bed with parchment in various stages of aging. She takes Dora from Regulus's lap and passes her to Ted when the baby tries to grab at the papers. The problem is, I can't read any of it. Sirius frowns, peering at the document. I thought you, out of all of us, kept your language skill intact. I did, she replies a bit indignantly. But you try reading handwriting from... She squints at one of the documents which Regulus now realizes is a letter. Ah yes, 7093. Regulus startles. 7093? That's... Holy shit, that's almost 200 years old, James murmurs from his seat. He stippled his fingers and he keeps looking between the healer, Andromeda, and Regulus. What is that? 5, 6 generations back? Sirius asks, running his finger over a weathered piece of parchment. Give or take a generation. Andromeda picks up one of the letters, turning it this way and that. Here is what I'm thinking, given our family tree. My grandfather was Pollux Rosier, whose mother was Violetta Nigellus, but only by marriage. I asked Narcissa, but we're not sure what her original last name was before she married. There is hardly any record of her, and when we check the family registry, her name is Nigellus. Pablo wheels a stool to the foot of Regulus's bed and takes a seat, leaning his firm arms on the mattress edge. Saint Mungo's has no record of your Japanese heritage, and I mean no offense when I say this, but it's rather difficult to see. You look English to me. You sound English to me. We are English, Sirius tells him. We are also French, and we are also Japanese. Not sure if you noticed, but we are pure bloods. Our family tree is a mess. I imagine our French side absolutely demolished our Japanese side if it's matriarchal and that far back. Regulus picks up one of the documents Andromeda laid across his lap. They aren't exactly letters, more like an array of lines that form what he supposed might be pictures, though some aren't picture-like at all. There are swooping lines, sharper lines. If you can't read it, what are we supposed to do? He asks Andromeda, twisting the parchment in his hand. I can read some of it, Andromeda replies, but it will take me time. We reach out to Miss Nakamura, but I don't want to wait around for her to arrive. I might call in a favor with a friend and see if she can help me. She's a translator for the Quidditch League. I'd bet a good money she knows someone in East Asia who manages translation for a Japanese league. There's a Japanese Quidditch League? James asks, mouth hanging open. That is so cool. Quidditch isn't purely European, you know. I just think it's more widespread here since we have such a huge league of our own. And rabbit fans, Pablo tacks on with a smile. I will say our league is quite popular, but the way you Europeans behave about Quidditch is on par with Muggles in Argentina when it comes to football. James points a finger at him, a low fire in his eyes. Hey, we play Quidditch. Reg does too. I did, Regulus reminds him quickly. I don't play anymore. There is a noticeable shift in the room. It's not just I don't play anymore, but it's I don't play anymore because I can't, and I may never play again. Pablo clears his throat, drawing attention back to the matter at hand. Is there any chance I might get a copy of your family tree? He asked Andromeda, nodding to one of the only documents written in English. I'm waiting for the test on Regulus's blood, but in the meantime, I might try to look into blood curses passed down through matriarchal and patriarchal lines, as well as any known curses attributed to the names on your tree. You have that sort of information? Regulus asked. Oh, definitely. Blood curses aren't common. We keep a registry of all those afflicted as well as those who've been cursed, who are still dealing with their curse, or who have passed on. Andromeda passes him the family tree. Keep it until you find what you are looking for. I have no use for it. I promise you that I know my own family tree very, very well. Unfortunately, Sirius mutters. Pablo takes the parchment and holds it gingerly between his fingers. It's not old. Regulus has feeling, as is tradition, that his and Sirius's names are blackened. Not dead, but dishonored. From what he could see before Andromeda passed it to Pablo, his cousin's portrait is blackened too. Thank you for this, Pablo says earnestly. And Regulus? He meets Pablo's eyes, though he desperately wants to look away. They are as green as new spring grass and far too warm. I'll do whatever I can. I want you to know and understand that. Each new piece of information, every single thing you think might be important, I should know it, because there is a good chance it will help me pinpoint what's going on. And if I can manage that, then we are that much closer to figuring out how to get you better. Regulus glances at James. His forehead is in his hands, shoulders hunched forward. For someone who has always struck Regulus as big, both physically and in the way he takes up all the space in the room, James looks surprisingly small. There is a tickle at the back of Regulus's throat, and he quickly looks away. The tickle fades. To the healer, he says, I'll keep that in mind, but I've already told you all that I know.